With around 60 lakhs cases, the novel coronavirus is continuing its tandava across the globe. Every one of our discussions and recent talks have been in and around the COVID outbreak. However, today, here we are trying to analyze the corona outbreak, the lockdown, and its effect in our country, especially in Kashmir. It's my immense pleasure to welcome Honorable Justice Markandey Katju sir to this virtual discussion. Very good afternoon, sir. To begin with, all of you might be knowing sir as the former judge of the Supreme Court of India, and he was also the former chairman of the Press Trust of India. But I would like to add a quick note that he is also serving as the chairman of the IRA, that is the Indian Reunification Association, which is a movement advocating the annulment of the partition of India. Coming to our topic, keeping in mind the very fact that it's out of your subject of expertise, sir, but still, how do you see the growing anxiety, fear, and social stigma amongst the people because of this COVID outbreak? And how can we curb it, sir?
See, my own opinion is that this is a gross exaggeration. There is no danger of this corona. It has been blown out of proportion. And I want to give you my reasons why I say this.
Sure.
But before that, I want to say that before taking such a important decision of imposing a national lockdown, the Prime Minister should have held wide consultations with experts, with scientists, with economists, with administrators, intellectuals, and other people, even media, before imposing this national shutdown. Because what is a national shutdown? It means the whole nation is shut down. All economic activity is brought to a standstill. This is a very serious decision. And before taking it, a wide consultation should have been held with experts and scientists, administrators, and others. But it seems this decision was taken in a huff by the Prime Minister, who wanted to show I'm a very strong man. I can take strong decisions. So on 24th March at about 8:30 p.m., he announced it to be effective from midnight, giving only 3.5 hours notice to people. With the result, there has been total chaos in the country. You are seeing lakhs and crores of people wandering around on the streets, these migrants and daily workers. Many of them have starved to death. Trains stopped, buses stopped, total chaos. So firstly, I want to say that before taking such an important decision, wide consultation should have been held by the Prime Minister. You see, this decision was taken in a hurry, just like the decision of demonetization, taken in a huff, without wide consultation, and that demonetization led to chaos throughout the country. This is even worse, because you have put the whole nation to a standstill. And this is creating havoc. Now, coming to this corona, firstly, the statistics show that hardly 3 or 4% who get corona die of the disease. Maximum 3 or 4%.
Yes.
Remaining 96, 97% who get infected recover from it. In fact, I read on the internet that 50% people who get corona don't even know that they have got this disease.
Yes.
Automatically it gets cured like a cough and cold or something. So it's not such a serious thing and people are making a big hue and cry about. Secondly, what I saw on the internet, that in India, only about 3,500 people have died of corona. It started 5 months back. In 5 months, just 3,500 people have died. Now, India has a huge population of 135 crore. What is 3,500 people? And America, which has 1/4 our population, they are 32 or 33 crores. They have had about 1 lakh deaths due to corona. We have had only 3,500. Now, what does this indicate? it indicates that relatively Indian people have immunity from this disease. We don't catch it,
Yes.
unlike Americans who get it. So, assuming that a lockdown was justified in America, it was certainly not justified in India. Thirdly, no comparative chart was made by anybody as to how many people during this 5-month period ever since Corona came, how many people in this 5 months died of TB or malaria or flu or dengue or diabetes, heart attack. So many diseases people die of. My statistics are that 10 or 20 times people more have died because of those other diseases.
Exactly.
Very few have died because of Corona. So it is not such a serious disease that you make such a you will put a whole nation to a standstill. Of course, it is a matter of concern like any other disease, but there are diseases which are even more, which take more lives. Nobody talks of them. Nobody talks of deaths due to TB ever since Corona came, and deaths due to malaria and flu and dengue and other diseases. Nobody talks of that. Just Corona, like, the whole problem with Indian people is that if some foreigners start shouting and screaming, you also, without applying your brains, you start shouting and screaming, Corona, like a wolf which has come on your door. It's not such a danger as I told you. So there was no justification to bring. Now just see, many more people are dying due to hunger rather than Corona. Reports are not being published. They are, I think, being suppressed. But you can imagine so many people are driven away from the cities and they are trekking to their homes, these daily workers. And
Exactly.
And you must understand one thing. In 1947, the total population of United India, which includes present-day Pakistan and Bangladesh, entire population of India in 1947 was about 40 crores. Today, India alone has 135 crores, apart from Pakistan and Bangladesh.
Yeah.
Then in 1947, only about 15% people in India lived in cities, 85% lived in villages. Today, the situation is that about 35-40% population of India lives in cities, only 60-65% lived in villages. Which means that after independence, there was mass migration from the villages to the cities. And this happened because firstly, the population kept increasing. So the burden on land was too much for people to survive in the rural areas. So they had to migrate to cities to get some employment, some livelihood, because there was no livelihood in the villages left. And to a certain extent, machinery displaced labor. So there was mass migration from rural areas to urban areas. Now, during this lockdown, you are reversing this trend. You are sending these tens of crores of people. There are 40-45 crore these daily wagers and migrants and so on. About 80-90% of our workforce. You are sending them all back to the villages. But the point is, what will they do with the villages? Pass an order that they should be given transport and food and all. But assuming all transport, food and all is given. But they will be sent back to villages. Now there is no work for them in the village. Here in the cities, they were earning some money, which they were sending to their wives and children in the villages. Now, when they go back to village, they will become a burden on their families. They have no work there, no livelihood there. So there will be large-scale food riots in the coming months and breakdown of law and order. Total chaos has come. Already it has come in this country.
Yes, coming to the point of lockdown, luckily India was an away ground for the sprouting of this coronavirus, like it had been in China, Italy, and all. So we have got a limited time, even though limited, to get prepared for this lockdown and all. So imposing the world's largest lockdown by confining 1.3 billion people to their houses, it was a risky task, or it was a daring decision actually. And as you have mentioned, it is having a lot of backdrops and limitations. So according to you, what could have been a better plan, or what could have been a better solution rather than a adamant lockdown? Or do you have
I'm saying there is no There is no problem, so where is the need of going into a solution to the problem? There is no problem.
Okay.
This is just a myth which has been created. I told you hardly 2-3% people who get corona die of it. And moreover, only about 3,500 people have died of corona in the last 5 months. Now, in a population of 135 crores, what is 3,500 deaths? People die in a huge population. You think people of India will live forever? People will die, and many will die of diseases, and they are dying of various. They die of malaria and dengue and flu, tuberculosis, and so on. So there's no problem. I mean, you can go to the question of solution if there's a problem. I don't regard corona as a problem at all. 10 times more people die due to malaria and tuberculosis and flu and so on. You just see that I've written articles and given the statistics.
Yes, sir. I have seen. And coming to the testing and tracing, we know that with only about 0.18% of testing, we have found almost 150,000 cases with about testing only 0.18% of our population. So do you have any comments about the testing and the government machinery, like the health department's initiative to counter the spread of coronavirus?
See, frankly, I have no comment on that because I don't have the full facts before me. But what I'm saying is, see, testing, why don't you do testing for malaria or for tuberculosis or flu or dengue? I mean, you've forgotten all those diseases and the people who have died because of that. Only thing you are concerned with is corona.
So we can understand that this countrywide lockdown, it's a kind of temporary solution. I mean, it's a kind of getting time.
It is no solution. It should not have been imposed. No, I don't agree to the temporary solution. It is no solution.
All right.
It was a blunder. And before starting a lockdown, there should have been wide consultation with people. What is this? In a huff, you take a decision, such an important decision which brings the whole country to a standstill.
Okay.
It's not a temporary solution. It is no solution.
As in a situation of pandemic, yes, please continue. As in a situation of pandemic, people will be obviously having these tensions about the spread, and also they'll be restraining from the economic activities. And coming to the economy, like how do you think this corona outbreak had contributed to the collapse or destruction of our regular economic practices? And
see, this economy was already in a very bad shape before this lockdown.
Yeah.
The one indicator of the health of the economy is the auto sector. And in the last 4 or 5 months, there was a decline in sales of about 40% in the auto sector.
Yeah.
Now it has become almost 90%. So this lockdown has further pushed it down, something which was already, the economy was already going down. Now this lockdown has sent it spiraling down. Whole nation has come to a standstill. Just imagine now, the total chaos. You know, announcing a lockdown is just like declaring a war. It is easy to declare a war, but then it is difficult to get out of it.
Yes, I understand.
Now, the Prime Minister declared lockdown. Now, how do you get out of it? You say there's total chaos. Now it was announced that domestic flights will start. The central government announced.
Yeah.
But Maharashtra government, I believe they have put restrictions. How many will go? How many will not go? Total in different states are taking different views. Total chaos is prevailing.
Exactly.
It was all very easy to say that I'm a strong man. I'm announcing a lockdown. But getting out of this lockdown, it will prove 100 times more difficult.
Yes, sir. Coming to a different angle, we could see there are like all these challenges can be utilized as opportunities in different ways. And of course, this corona, it's a kind of the greatest digital wave ever in the mankind, or we can say ever the world had witnessed or something. Corona had made a great digital wave among all of the world. And coming to the Indian perspective of it, there has been an increase in the online educational platforms and e-education and everything. And as a student, I'm a student of Campus Law Center at Delhi University. And as a student of Delhi University, I would like to share an experience with you, sir. there has been a recent discussions among the academic management administration teams regarding conducting our exams in the online methods. And so while the discussions were happening, the DU already introduced a system of open book examination, which is using the online platforms. So while this decision was declared, there has been a response from the student community against it. Like, and while the deans were having a review meeting, in that meeting itself, there has been a glitches and connection troubles while they were discussing it over the online platform. And with that itself, we can understand the difficulties it could have been faced by the rural students if this system is introduced.
The crux of everything is the economy. Okay.
Okay.
Now, there is no problem in increasing production. See, we have to become rapidly, we have to transform India from an underdeveloped country to a highly developed country. This must be our national target. How do we do it? Now, see, there is no difficulty in increasing industrial production. In 1947, we had very few engineers, very few industries, because broadly the British policy was not to allow India to industrialize. But today, India of 2020 is very different from the India of 1947. Today, we have thousands of very bright engineers, technicians. In fact, our engineers are manning Silicon Valley in California. In many American universities, there are Indian professors of mathematics and engineering and science and so on. So today, India is very different from the India of 1947. We have all the technical skill, huge pool of technical skills and all that. We can increase production as much as we want. We have got a huge natural resources. India is not a small country like Britain or Japan. It's almost a continent. So we have all that is needed to become a first-rate industrial power like USA or Europe or Japan. But the problem is this: while there is no difficulty in increasing production, you can double the steel production, you can double the chemical production or food production, anything you can double or triple or increase it as much as you like. There's no problem. Is it will not be sold because people don't have the purchasing power to buy. You see, what you produce must also be sold. Yes. It can't just lie unsold. But Indian people are so poor, they have very little purchasing power. So the problem is how to raise the purchasing power of the Indian masses, not how to raise the production. Production you can raise, you've got your engineers and raw materials and all, you can increase production as much as you want, but it won't be sold. So how do you raise the purchasing power of the Indian masses? In Soviet Union, you see, they had a revolution in 1917, but the industrialization really started in 1928 when the first 5-year plan was adopted. Broadly, the methodology which was adopted was this in the Soviet Union. The government fixed all the prices. It was a communist government, they fixed prices of all commodities. Every 2 years or so, the government kept reducing prices by 5 to 10%. Every 2 years or so. And sometimes they would raise wages also by 5 to 10%. But even with the same wage, when prices are steadily going down, prices of commodities, every 2 years being reduced by 5 to 10%, then the real wages are going up, because even with the same wage, the worker can buy more goods because goods are becoming cheaper. So in this way, the domestic market was expanded by state action, not private enterprise. It was steadily, the market was expanded because when prices are being pushed down by the government every 2 years or so, people have, the real wages are increasing because the wage is relative to the price index. So in this way, the domestic market was expanded and simultaneously the production was stepped up. But the increased production could be absorbed in the market because people had more purchasing power, because goods are becoming cheaper. So in this way, at that time when in the West, there was, after the Wall Street slump of 1929 and the Great Depression, which started from USA but spread all over the industrialized countries. In America, Europe, 30-40% people became unemployed. Thousands of factories closed down. At that time, in 1928-29, in Soviet Union, the economy started booming. Annual growth was 18-20%. And because a huge number of factories were set up, the employment was generated, millions of jobs were created. This broadly solved the problem. You see, mainly you have to depend on the domestic market, because reliance on foreign markets is very, at any time by some foreign power or some other, there may be a recession in America, so your goods can't be sold. So you have to, for stability, you have to really depend on your domestic market. In India, we have a huge population of 135 crores. If their purchasing power is raised, you have your market. Then you can step up the production. It will be adopt the method which the Soviet Union adopted. You can adopt some other, create some other method, but you have to create a method by which the purchasing power of the Indian masses rises, so that then they can buy more goods, and then you can step up production, and that will solve all your economic problems.
Yes, sir, I understand. So you're basically implying to the economic solutions how India can become self-sustaining.
That is, you see, the point is, you people, your Delhi Law Campus Center and you students, you people have nothing in your head. You have been taught all rubbish and all nonsense. You don't know the truth. Now I'm going to teach you, become like a teacher, teach you the truth.
Sure, sir.
Because even these people, your professors in your Delhi University and JNU professors who have got PhDs from Harvard and Yale in economics, they talk nonsense. A lot of idiots have come out of Harvard and Yale also. So don't rely on them. The point is, what are they saying? You see, what I'm saying, don't accept it blindly.
Yeah.
I'm putting my idea before you.
Yes.
You consider whether it carries sense to you or not.
Yes.
I never impose my idea.